What's up, Kanto University? I'm Duncan Kneedeep, and I'm here to talk to you about a new type of battle I've created, which is the free-for-all battle. On release of X and Y, multi-battles were added to the game, which allowed 4 people to fight each other in a 2v2 format, and since it was possible to target your partner in this game mode, I decided that I'd like to play with 3 like-minded people in a new fan-made game mode where we could all attack each other. In free-for-all, it's every man for himself, although you do technically have a partner on your side of the field. You ignore the teams the game places you on, and you've got to endeavour to be the only person left standing at the end of the battle. You may have seen these battles already on Giancarlo's channel, on Shofu's channel, or even on my own channel if you subscribe to me. If you have, or even if you've tried them yourselves, then you already know this game mode can be a lot of fun, especially if you've got a Skype call, as in person you can make alliances, betray your allies, and generally act in a really despicable way in order to win the game. Despite the fact that this is a fan-made game, I've come to the conclusion that it does need its own rule set, and that's what this video is about. So here it is at long last, the much requested official free-for-all rule set. First things first, the obvious rules. The last man standing is the winner, no matter what. If they had to be despicable and lie and cheat their way there, they still win. If the game ends prematurely due to one of the sides of the field getting knocked out while both players on the other side have Pokemon remaining, there are 2 ways you can resolve this. The first way is to decide a winner if somebody would obviously have won. That's if the other person had a tiny amount of health left and you outspeed and you had 3 Pokemon left or something like that, or something ridiculous like that. And the other option is to duke it out in a single battle using the Pokemon you had left and try your hardest to start this single battle in a similar, if not exactly the same situation. For example, if weather was up, try and get that weather up before you start hitting each other type of thing as the end of the free-for-all. Now on to some of the more unique rules, and the first one is an ability ban. Because of the nature of this game, it is really important to ban this ability, and that is telepathy. Since telepathy blocks all damage from your own side of the field, and in free-for-alls you are forced to share a side of your field because it's not an official game mode with one of your opponents, the ability has to be completely banned in free-for-all. You will instantly be disqualified if you bring telepathy to any free-for-all that includes Ubers. The Moody ability is another banned ability, and I'll explain that in more detail later. For this next rule, I'm going to try and explain the reasoning behind it first. So, when this battle style first came out, the battles were played out exactly as they were intended to be. They were fast-paced, they were exciting, they were full of deals being made, they were full of betrayals, crushing people's hopes and dreams. However, as the metagame developed, people started adopting a different strategy. Instead of trying to kill their opponents, everybody began bringing 3 bulky Pokemon with a recovery move and protect, and basically everybody alternated between restoring their HP with the recovery move and using protect. As a result, we instated the recovery clause because battles were starting to take over an hour, they were timing out, it wasn't much fun at all. So the recovery clause is as follows. Only 1 Pokemon in each player's final squad of 3 Pokemon can carry a recovery move, which does not rely on dealing damage. This means that recovery moves such as Giga Drain, Leech Seed, Drain Punch, similar to that do deal damage, do not count towards this rule. It is also important to note that you are allowed more than 1 Pokemon with a recovery move in your squad of 6 that you're taking to the free-for-all and then selecting from, but if you do, you cannot select more than 1 of them to take part in that battle. While this clause might sound quite restrictive, it did reinvigorate the game mode and bring it back to where it was originally intended to be, which was a fast-paced, exciting game mode. After some testing, we also decided to include the evasion clause, which is exactly the same as Smogon, and that is that you cannot use any evasion-style moves or Sand Veil or similar to increase your evasion. This is vital because otherwise, instead of recovering, people tend to spam evasion moves and protect and build up an invincible Pokemon, and then we all spend an hour trying to hit each other and failing. Not much fun. Now that we've discussed the new unique rules, we're on to a standard thing, which is a ban list for this metagame. So in this metagame, we are going to have a unique ban list, but it is quite similar to the current Ubers ban list on Smogon, and that is because a lot of this overlaps with just these Pokemon being outrageously powerful. So the ban list is as follows. Arceus, Darkrai, Deoxys, Deoxys Attack, Dialga, Giratina, Giratina's O form, Groudon, Ho-Oh, Kyogre, Kyurem W, Lugia, Mewtwo, Palkia, Rayquaza, Reshiram, Shaymin Sky, Xerneas, Yveltal, Zekrom, Zygarde, and Mega Gengar. So that means the Gengarite is banned, but Gengar is not. Now, all of these bans should be self-explanatory. These Pokemon are so powerful that they would be used on almost every team if they weren't banned. Feel free to try out an Ubers free-for-all if you would like to use them. It is quite fun to do an Ubers free-for-all, but those games tend to be horrendously unbalanced. Finally, the move Dark Void is banned. The only legal Pokemon that can use Dark Void in a free-for-all is a Smeargle, but the lack of balance it causes because it only hits the opposing team, putting them both to sleep, but it's impossible to hit your so-called partner with it, leads to too much of an argument over which side of the field you're going to be placed on as soon as somebody sees a Smeargle, and that's not where the battle in a free-for-all should be taking place. The battle in a free-for-all should be taking place in the battle, not beforehand. Now, I'm sure some of you are wondering, why isn't X banned? Why isn't Y banned? All kinds of things, in particular with regards to Blaziken, Genesect, Mega Kangaskhan, and Mega Lucario. The answer to this is quite simple, and that is that while these are overpowered in singles, and they do thrive there, or even in doubles they do thrive, in free-for-all they have proven to not be quite so overpowered. Blaziken rarely survives long enough to get more than 1 or 2 speed boosts off, and is relatively fragile. He often requires only 1 and maybe 2 of your 3 opponents to attack him, and the same applies to Mega Lucario, who is actually so fragile that he dies to almost any Pokemon in one hit, and he can only prevent 1 of his 3 opponents from hitting him by killing it. So Mega Kangaskhan was a far more difficult decision because of these reasons, because he can take quite a few hits, or she, sorry, can take quite a few hits. But after testing, we found that it's actually an average Pokemon in free-for-all at best. There are much better choices, especially for your Mega Venusaur. Finally, Genesect. Now, while Genesect does really pack a punch, he is forced to hold a Choice Scarf in order to keep up with a lot of other Pokemon in free-for-all, and that combined with his fragility means that he is not actually that usable, because you really don't want to be choiced in a free-for-all. It's not like in a doubles where you can switch out a lot, because switching in a free-for-all generally results in you taking a lot of damage, and also you're facing 9 different Pokemon in a free-for-all. You've got to remember that. So Choice Bands, or Choice Scarfs, or Choice Specs, all of those, they're not really that useful in this meta. I will let you guys discover that for yourselves in testing, but because of this, Genesect is not banned. Finally, I need to mention one more clause which people have come to expect in competitive metagames, and that is the Sleep Clause. Now, it is not in effect in free-for-alls. We have decided against Sleep Clause, and the reason for it is that the 3v1 nature of the game means that you're very unlikely to have 2 Pokemon put to sleep, and even if you do, it might not be from the same person, it might not even be from the same side of the field, and it's really difficult to control Sleep Clause in free-for-all, and it does actually become unfair. It actually sometimes becomes advantageous to have your first Pokemon put to sleep because your second Pokemon deals with the 3 on the field more easily, so you can convince somebody to put you to sleep to protect you with Sleep Clause, and it's a lot of argument and a lot of sort of scumbaggy tactics that we really didn't want in there, so we've left Sleep Clause out of this metagame. Well, there we have it, the official free-for-all rule set. I really do hope you guys enjoyed playing this game mode. Please do leave suggestions in the comments down below for how you think the rules should be changed, if you think they should. Feedback from people playing these battles is really important to me, so these rules are not set in stone, and they may change with more testing, with the release of more Pokemon, or even more Pokemon games in the far future. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Kanto University. If you'd like to hit up my channel, then the link will be in the top right or in the description down below, and I will see you guys next time.